I just wanted a peaceful afternoon with my family, until I heard my daughter-in-law say I was the plague that ruined their lives. That one sentence changed everything. My name is Carolyn Miller. I'm 62 years old, and for the past 15 summers, I've hosted backyard barbecues to keep our family close. Good food warm, laughs a little sunshine, that was my recipe for togetherness. This year was no different. It was a golden July afternoon in Lexington, Kentucky. Birds were chirping, kids were laughing, the grill was sizzling. But I didn't know that what I'd hear next would burn far deeper than any flame. The ribs were just about ready when I stepped inside to grab some extra napkins from the kitchen. That's when I heard her voice, Melissa, my daughter-in-law. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I swear. But the words, they hit like a freight train. She's the plague that ruined our lives. There was a pause, and then her voice dropped lower, but the contempt was sharp as glass. She's always trying to control us with her money. Jason won't say anything, but we're suffocating. I froze, napkins still in hand. My stomach dropped, and for a moment I thought maybe I misheard her. But then I heard Jason's voice. He didn't argue. He didn't defend me. He just sighed and said, "Let's not talk about this now. Let's not talk about this now." It wasn't just the words. It was the truth behind them. That my son, my only child, agreed. Or at least didn't disagree. After everything I had done, after all the times I had stepped in when they were drowning financially. And yet here, they were behind closed doors labeling me a curse. I didn't storm out. I didn't throw a scene. I just stood there, heart pounding, then quietly turned around, walked out the side door and left. No one noticed. No one came after me. The party went on. I drove home with the windows rolled down, letting the summer air dry the tears on my cheeks. My mind was racing, trying to stitch together every moment that had led up to this. All the times Melissa smiled at me, all the dinners, the hugs, the Mother's Day cards, all fake. It wasn't like I had ever asked for gratitude, but this cut deeper than I thought anything could at this age. Let me give you some context. Jason met Melissa at a college alumni event over a decade ago. She was bright, ambitious, and frankly a bit intimidating, but she made my son happy, and that was enough for me. When they got married, they wanted a house. Jason had just changed careers. Melissa's job was unstable, so I co-signed the mortgage and covered the down payment. I told them it was a gift because it was. What kind of mother wouldn't help? Over the years, the requests kept coming. Broken down cars, hospital bills, daycare costs, a surprise pregnancy, emergency dental surgery. Every time it was just this once, Mom and I believed them. I always believed them. And maybe that was my mistake. Back then I chalked it up to being needed. I thought I was supporting my family, helping them build a life. What I didn't realize was that I was becoming the villain in their story, the overbearing mother-in-law with a checkbook and too many opinions. I sat in my quiet house that night, wine glass in hand, staring at the framed picture of Jason's college graduation on the mantel. That proud, goofy smile, the way he looked up into the stands to find me after he got his diploma. When had I become the villain? And if I was being honest, why did it hurt so much? The thing is, I don't think Melissa meant for me to hear her. That's what made it worse. She wasn't trying to provoke me. That was just how she truly felt. And Jason. His silence spoke volumes. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying her words. She's the plague. It's strange, isn't it? How you can give so much of yourself, your time, your money, your energy, and somehow that becomes a reason for resentment, not love. I started going back in time, thinking of all the signs I had missed. The eye rolls when I offered advice, the forced smiles when I brought over groceries unasked, the tension in Melissa's shoulders every time I said I'd handle it. I guess I thought I was being helpful. I didn't see how they might have felt patronized, controlled. But that still didn't justify the betrayal. that still didn't excuse calling me a plague. In the days that followed, I didn't reach out. I needed space to breathe, to process. Melissa sent a few texts, photos from the barbecue, a casual, "Thanks again for everything, Carolyn," like nothing had happened. Jason called once. I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready. I went through old bank statements, calculated everything I had paid for them over the years. The number shocked me. Over $300,000, not including the little things, not including the birthday checks, the babysitting money I never asked to be returned. I had spent most of my retirement savings keeping them afloat. Was that love, or was that blind loyalty? Was I helping or enabling? And what broke me wasn't the money. It was that deep down, I had hoped my son would one day say, "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." But instead, I got silence. Instead, I got labeled a plague. I started journaling, therapy on paper. And in that quiet space, I realized something that both freed me and broke me. I had made myself small for their sake. I had poured everything into making their lives easier, thinking they'd love me more. But all it did was make them feel entitled, dependent, angry. It was time to change that. But not with vengeance, not with yelling or shaming, with boundaries. And it started with no longer being silent. 3 weeks passed. Not a word from Jason. Not even a, "How are you?" Mom Melissa posted happy photos on Facebook, like everything was peachy brunch, selfies, the kids in matching swimsuits, and even a meme about toxic in-laws. The irony nearly made me laugh. But it was time. Time to say what I had kept quiet for too long. I sat down in my living room and hit record on my phone, not for the internet, not for revenge, just for me, and maybe one day for them. "If you're watching this, Jason, Melissa," I began, my voice steady, "I want you to hear the truth, the whole truth. Since you've already labeled me the plague, let me show you what that plague really did." I opened a thick binder I kept in my filing cabinet. It was bursting with documents, bank statements, wire transfers, mortgage agreements, loan paperwork, receipts. 8 years' worth of evidence that I hadn't just helped my son and daughter-in-law, I had funded their entire life. "You think I control you with money? No. You gave me control every time you asked for a bailout. You came to me when Jason totaled his car. I paid. When Melissa's student loans hit hard, I paid. When your roof caved in, your heater broke when your daughter needed braces, I paid. The total $479.50. I had it all calculated down to the last cent. But I never asked for repayment, not once, because I loved them. But the biggest one, I held up the deed to their house. This home you brag about to your friends. You didn't buy it. I did. The mortgage is in my name, always has been. You never even looked at the fine print, did you?" My voice didn't crack. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done being quiet. "You want freedom? You've got it. I'm done. Starting now." I sent the video to Jason, just him. No commentary, no threats. An hour later, my phone rang. He didn't even say hello. Just a stunned, broken mom. "Is this real?" I didn't answer. I just said, "I hope one day you'll understand what I gave up for you." Then I hung up. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Turns out when a house is in your name and you're the sole payer, you have every right to sell it. So I started the process, quietly. I didn't even tell them. I just waited. And then, just like clockwork, they showed up on my doorstep. Jason looked tired, Melissa defensive. But I was ready. "We need help," Jason said. "Please, we're drowning. We're 5 months behind on everything." Melissa jumped in. "We just need a short-term loan. We're thinking of refinancing the house. Maybe you could co-sign," or I cut her off. Calmly, "You mean the house I'm about to sell?" Dead silence. "What, I'm selling the house," I said. "And before you panic, yes, you'll get something. 20% of the net profit, the rest, that's mine. I'm rebuilding my retirement fund." Jason stared at me, stunned. Melissa's face turned red with rage. "You can't do that," she hissed. "That's our home." "No," I said, "it's mine. You've been living in it like tenants without rent for nearly a decade. That generosity ends now." Melissa exploded. "You're ruining our lives." There it was again, that word ruin. I smiled almost sadly. "No, sweetheart. I'm saving mine." Jason's eyes welled up, and for a moment I saw my little boy, not the grown man who let his mother be insulted, but the kid who used to bring me flowers from the yard. He opened his mouth to speak, but Melissa grabbed his arm and yanked him out the door. The last thing I heard her say was, "She'll regret this." But I didn't. Not for a second. Because the truth is, I had already regretted staying silent for too long. It was a Tuesday morning when they showed up again. This time they didn't knock. Jason used the key I'd given him years ago, one I now realized I should have taken back long ago. He opened the door like he still had the right to walk into my life uninvited and unquestioned. "Mom," he said gently, as if saying it softly would hide the desperation in his voice. Melissa followed, clutching a thick manila folder like it held her salvation. "We really need to talk." I stared at them for a long second, not inviting them to sit. Talk. Jason hesitated, looked at his wife, then spoke. "We're in a really tight spot, worse than before. The credit cards are maxed out. We're behind on the kids' school tuition utilities and some medical bills." Melissa jumped in. "We've exhausted every option. This is the last time, I swear. Just one loan, a short-term loan. We'll pay it back once we refinance the house." I crossed my arms. "Refinance what house?" She blinked. "Ours." "No," I said slowly, "mine." Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "Please, Mom, don't do this. We've been trying." "Trying?" I arched an eyebrow. "Like putting $15,000 down on a swimming pool." Their faces froze. Melissa recovered first. That's none of your business." Jason flinched like he'd just been slapped. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I saw the contractor's receipt," I said calmly. "New heated in-ground pool scheduled to begin construction next month. Paid with a transfer from your joint account." Melissa stiffened. "That was a gift from my parents." I pulled a folded paper from the drawer beside me and set it on the table. "No, it wasn't. It was from your Chase checking, routing number ending in 3205. The same account I deposited money into 2 months ago when Jason said he needed help with medical expenses." Melissa's mouth parted, but no words came out. Jason sat down heavily, guilt painted across his face. "That wasn't supposed to happen like this," he mumbled. We thought we could get ahead of things. The pool was a mistake. A mistake," I repeated, my voice steady. "Or a calculated indulgence you never expected to pay," poor Melissa snapped. "Okay, you know what? We're not criminals, Carolyn. We're just tired of feeling like beggars around you. You hold everything over us like you're some kind of queen handing out charity. And yet I said, you're here again." She turned red. "Because we're desperate," I looked at Jason. "And you agree with her." He looked like he wanted to disappear. "I didn't know she was using the money for that." "I swear," Melissa scoffed. "Don't start this again, Jason." "No," I said. "Let him talk." Jason lifted his head, eyes wet. "I didn't know. I've been picking up overtime shifts, selling my old gear. I thought we were trying, but this is just another fire." He looked at me pleading. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't mean for us to use you like this." Melissa's face twisted. "Jason, what the hell?" But it was too late. He'd said it, out loud. "Use me." It was the first time he'd ever admitted it. I walked to the fireplace, picked up a folder I'd prepared a few days earlier, and laid it on the table beside theirs. Inside was every receipt, transfer, and check I'd written them over the past 8 years. It wasn't just numbers, it was my life. I tapped the top page. "That's the last check I wrote. It'll be the last one ever. Melissa stood. You're making a huge mistake. If you cut us off like this, you're pushing your family away. I smiled, not with bitterness, but relief. No, Melissa. I'm letting go of a burden that was never mine to carry. Jason looked like he might cry. What are we supposed to do? I met his eyes. You grow up. You figure it out, like every other adult. I turned to Melissa. And you stop blaming the people who've helped you most for the messes you made yourselves. There was a silence, thick, suffocating. Melissa grabbed her folder and stormed out. Jason followed, but paused at the door. Are you really cutting us off? No, I said softly. I'm setting you free. And with that, I closed the door. Not just physically, but for the first time emotionally, I had chosen myself. 2 days later, they came back this time with fire in their eyes. Melissa looked like she'd rehearsed a speech in the mirror all morning. Jason trailed behind her, looking more like a hostage than a husband. You violated our privacy, she snapped the moment she stepped through the door. Looking through our bank records, tracking our spending. That's toxic, Carolyn. It's controlling. I didn't flinch. I didn't break into anything. You gave me access when you wanted help. I never stopped having access. You just assumed I wouldn't look. Jason rubbed his face like he had a headache that started years ago. Can we please not do this? Like enemies, Melissa's glare sharpened. She made it like this. No, I said. The lies made it like this. I opened the folder again and slid a printed email across the table, a forwarded confirmation from the pool company. It wasn't a gift from your parents. It was from Jason's account, the same account you drained for a tanning bed 2 years ago. And now a pool. Melissa's lips curled. You went through our emails too. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because the truth was already out. Jason finally broke. You told me it was covered. You said it was from your dad. Melissa turned to him defensive. It was going to be, I just needed to lock in the date. My dad was going to transfer the money, but you used Mom's. He cut her off. Again. The room went silent. Then she exploded. Why are you taking her side? She's the one tearing this family apart. No, I said calmly. I'm just done holding it together alone. I stood and walked to the kitchen counter where another folder waited. This, I said, opening it, is the sale contract. The house was sold last week. The funds will clear next Friday. Melissa's face went white. You're bluffing. I handed her the signed documents. Notarized, stamped, and final. You have 30 days to vacate, I added. That's not a threat. That's the legal notice. I already talked to a lawyer. Jason looked at the paper like it was in a foreign language. You already sold it. I told you I was done, I said. And I meant it. Melissa started yelling, incoherent, desperate. She called me manipulative, heartless, selfish. She threatened to sue. She screamed that I would regret this for the rest of my life. I listened to every word without blinking. When she finally stopped out of breath, Jason turned to me. Can I talk to you alone? Melissa shot him a look of death. Seriously. He didn't say anything, just walked past me into the backyard. I followed, closing the sliding door behind me. The air was thick with summer heat and tension. He sat on the porch swing. I stayed standing. I don't know who I am anymore, he said quietly. I used to have ambition. I wanted to build something. But over the years, I just leaned on you too much. I let Melissa tell me what to think, what to feel. He looked up at me, eyes red, and I let her turn me against you. My chest tightened. For a moment, the mother in me wanted to wrap him in my arms, but I didn't. He had to feel this. You made your choices, I said. You let the woman you married convince you that your mother was the enemy. I know. He wiped his eyes. What do I do now? I sat beside him slowly. You fix it. You figure out who you are without me or Melissa telling you. You work. You earn, you parent, and if you want to rebuild what we had, you'll have to do it without my checkbook." He nodded, staring at his hands. "I'm not asking you to give me money," he whispered. "Just time to prove I can be better." I stood and kissed his forehead. "Then start now." 3 days later, a black SUV pulled into my driveway. Melissa stepped out like she was walking into a courtroom. Her blazer was too crisp for the Kentucky heat. Her heels clicked on the pavement like punctuation marks. Jason trailed behind her again, silent, expressionless. They had something planned. I didn't say anything as they sat across from me in the living room. I let the silence stretch long enough to become uncomfortable. It was a trick I learned from raising a teenager. Silence speaks louder than shouting. Melissa pulled out a folder and slid it across the table with a smirk. "A lawyer." "Our lawyer," she said smoothly. "He says we have grounds, emotional damages, misuse of funds, undue influence. You manipulated us into dependency, and now you're pulling the rug out. It's financial abuse, Carolyn." Jason stared at the wall, ashamed. I didn't even look at the folder. I just sipped my tea. "Are you done?" I asked. She blinked. "Excuse me," I said, "are you done?" Because I'd like to respond, with facts. She crossed her arms. "Go ahead." I pulled out my own folder, thick-tabbed and organized by year. I laid it out slowly, deliberately. "Here are the documents showing I paid your mortgage for 8 years, I said. And here are credit card statements where I covered everything from groceries to private school tuition. All signed, all logged, all voluntary." Melissa laughed dryly. "You think that protects you?" I didn't flinch. "No, this does." I slid over a signed agreement from 3 years ago, a handwritten note from Jason, witnessed and notarized, that acknowledged the house was legally and financially mine. That he understood I was co-signing out of generosity, not obligation. Jason turned pale. "Wait, you kept that?" I keep everything I said, smiling just enough to be unsettling. Melissa grabbed the paper, eyes scanning furiously. Her smugness dissolved molecule by molecule until all that remained was naked panic. "You can't use this. This was never supposed to be what I interrupted, evidence." Her hands trembled. "You knew we'd struggle. You knew we'd need you again. You set us up." "No," I said. "You set yourselves up. I just stopped catching you." Jason finally spoke. "Melissa, you said none of that mattered. You said we'd be fine without her." Melissa looked at him, voice rising. "You're seriously taking her side now?" "I'm not taking sides," he said, voice calm. "I'm taking responsibility. For the first time." She gaped at him like she didn't recognize him. I leaned back, letting the moment unfold. Then I said, "I've contacted a realtor. The house is already listed. Offers are coming in next week." Melissa's voice cracked. "You can't do that. That's where our kids live." "Where they've lived rent-free for 8 years," I corrected. "You've had time to plan. You chose to spend instead." She turned to Jason, grabbing his arm. "Say something. Tell her we won't leave." Jason didn't move. "She has every right." Melissa's face twisted. "You coward." I stood. The air had shifted, no longer heavy with guilt, but clean, crisp, freeing. "I will transfer 20% of the proceeds to you," I said. "That's the best I can do. The rest goes to replenish the retirement I nearly sacrificed." Melissa's voice turned venomous. "You think this is over? You think you've won? You just tore your family apart." "No," I said, with a softness that cut deeper than steel. "I finally stopped bleeding for people who only ever came to feed." She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. They left in silence. Jason paused at the door. "I'm sorry, Mom." I nodded. "Prove it. Live better." And then they were gone. That night I opened a bottle of wine, the good one I'd been saving. Not for a special occasion, just because it felt like the first night of my real life. For the first time in over a decade, My phone was silent. No requests, no guilt, no manipulative "I need you," just me and peace. The house echoed a little more now, but that emptiness, it wasn't loneliness, it was space. Glorious unclaimed space for healing, for dreaming, for living. I sat on my porch swing as the sun went down over Lexington, and I smiled. Because when you stop giving everything to people who take without gratitude, you don't become the villain. You finally become free. 6 weeks later, the house was empty. The kitchen that once smelled like Sunday pancakes was bare. The walls, once covered in kids' crayon drawings and family portraits, were stripped clean. What remained was silence, the kind that stings when it first settles, then begins to heal. Jason and Melissa had moved out. According to the real estate agent, they left behind a mess. Broken drawers, scratched up floors, a bathroom sink stuffed with paper towels, a parting shot maybe, one last middle finger. I didn't care. I had signed the closing papers that morning. The check cleared. I stood in the middle of that hollow house, took one last look, and whispered, "Goodbye." Then I walked out without looking back. They didn't call, not even Jason. But I heard through the grapevine, through cousins' old neighbors, that things weren't going well. Melissa had tried moving in with her parents, but their patience ran thin within weeks. Jason had started couch surfing. They were separated now. No official papers yet, but the damage was done. The kind you can't cover with couples therapy or vacation photos. Their kids and my grandkids were staying with Melissa's sister. She said it was temporary. I sent them birthday cards. No money inside this time. Just love. Just grandma still thinks about you every day. No reply. But I wasn't expecting one. 2 months later, I moved. Not to another neighborhood, not across town, but across states. Charleston, South Carolina. A cozy cottage just 5 blocks from the beach. Small, sunlit, simple. Paid in full. No mortgage, no guilt. I repainted the walls myself. Planted herbs in the backyard. Bought a bike with a basket and rode it to the farmer's market on Saturdays. No one knew me as Jason's mom here. I was just Carolyn, the woman who smiled at dogs and always brought her own reusable bag. At first it felt wrong to be happy. Then I realized I wasn't happy despite losing them. I was happy because I finally found me. I joined a book club, started yoga, even took up watercolor painting despite being utterly terrible at it. I laughed at my own messy sunflowers and lopsided seagulls. No one needed me here. And that was the most healing thing of all. For the first time in my life, I wasn't defined by what I gave others. I was defined by what I gave myself: patience, permission, peace. Then one night around the holidays, I got a text. "Jason, are you free to talk?" My heart skipped. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "Yes." He called. His voice was hoarse, uncertain. "Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart." Silence. Then a choked laugh. "I didn't think you'd pick up. I didn't think you'd reach out." He exhaled. "I'm sorry." I let it hang. I was stupid. I let her run everything. I thought I was protecting the kids by staying quiet, but I was just hiding. I listened silently. She left. For good. Took the car, maxed a couple cards. I'm cleaning up everything now. Got a second job doing deliveries, trying to rebuild. I closed my eyes. "Good," I said. "That's what men do when they grow up." He laughed, a real broken, relieved laugh. "I miss you," he said. I nodded. "I miss you too." And in that moment, I didn't rush to fix. I didn't offer money. I didn't ask about bills. I let him sit in his own wreckage, because only from the rubble can someone choose to rise. He didn't ask for anything, and I didn't offer. But over the months, we talked more, slowly, gently, carefully. He started sending me pictures of the kids' not polished portraits, but real moments. His daughter doing homework, his son helping him cook, small, imperfect victories. He didn't ask for praise, but I gave it anyway, because this time it was earned. A year after the barbecue, I stood on the beach watching the waves crash against the shore. The sky was the color of coral in forgiveness. Jason and the kids were visiting for the weekend, their first time seeing my new home. Melissa wasn't in the picture anymore, and that was okay. We grilled burgers in the backyard barefoot in the grass. The kids laughed. Jason smiled more easily now. He offered to wash the dishes. I let him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, my grandson leaned against my shoulder. "Grandma," he said, "Mom says you live at the beach now because you're magic." I smiled. "No, honey. I live here because I finally remembered who I was before I forgot." He nodded like that made sense, then ran off chasing fireflies. Jason came and sat beside me, 2 glasses of iced tea in hand. He raised his cup, to starting over. I clinked mine to his, to finally living. Spring arrived in Charleston with the smell of salt lilacs and fresh chances. I had just finished planting a row of tulips when I got a letter in the mail. A real one, not an email or a text, but a handwritten envelope with a slightly smudged stamp. I opened it slowly. It was from my granddaughter, Lily. Inside was a drawing of a beach, a small cottage, and a woman with silver hair sitting on a porch swing, smiling with a glass of lemonade in her hand. Beneath it, in uneven handwriting, she wrote, "Dear Grandma, thank you for showing Daddy how to be strong. I love you, Lily." I cried, not from sadness, from grace. Because somehow, even after everything, the lies, the betrayal, the silenced love had found a way back. Not because I chased it, but because I made space for it to return on its own. I began speaking at local community events, mostly small gatherings of women at libraries, church groups, retirement communities. My story wasn't special, I'd tell them. It was painfully common. Women, especially mothers, give until they disappear. They bend until they break. And then they wonder why no one remembers who they were before the sacrifices began. One afternoon, a woman approached me after a talk. Mid-50s, kind eyes, but weary. "I raised 3 kids alone," she said. "Worked 2 jobs. Paid their college. Now they don't call unless they need money." I held her hand and said the words I wished someone had said to me years ago. You're allowed to stop giving. You're allowed to choose peace. That doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. She wept in my arms. We both did. My story slowly gained attention. Someone recorded my talk. It went online. A few weeks later, I was invited to appear on a podcast about women reclaiming their lives after trauma, emotional, financial, familial. They titled the episode, "When Enough is Enough, Carolyn's Comeback." I laughed when I heard it, but deep down, I was proud. Not because I was famous, but because my pain had become someone else's path to healing. Jason kept rebuilding. He got a steady job managing inventory for a local hardware chain. He enrolled in parenting classes, joined a men's group for emotional accountability. He never asked for money again. Instead, he gave something far more valuable: effort. One day he called and said, "Mom, I'm proud of the man I'm becoming. And I never could have done it if you hadn't stopped saving me." That moment, that sentence was worth more than every dollar I'd ever given him. As for Melissa, she never reached out. I heard rumors she moved out west, started over under a new name, joined some MLM, tried to rebrand herself as a life coach. The irony didn't escape me. But I held no anger, no bitterness, only distance, the kind earned through hard lessons and harder boundaries. Some stories don't get closure, and that's okay, because the healing doesn't need an apology. It just needs a choice. On my 64th birthday, I threw myself a party. Nothing fancy, just a backyard barbecue with some neighbors, the book club ladies, and a few folks from the community center. Jason and the kids came too. We laughed, we danced, we grilled, just like old times, only better. Because this time, no one came with hidden agendas. No one whispered behind my back. No one asked for a check. They came for me. For Carolyn, and for the first time in decades, that was enough. As the sun set, I sat on the porch, swing the one from the drawing, and looked at the people I had gathered. Stronger, lighter, softer, wiser. I wasn't the plague. I was the cure I had been waiting for. So if you're listening to this, and you've ever felt like love is something you must buy, earn, or chase, let me remind you, real love does not require you to shrink. Peace is not earned through sacrifice. It's chosen through boundaries. And you are never too old, too tired, or too broken to begin again. I am Carolyn Miller. I lost everything I thought made me valuable. And in doing so, I found what made me powerful. If Carolyn's story touched something in you, if you've ever felt used invisible or trapped in the name of love, I want to hear your voice. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose peace over pleasing others? And where are you watching from? I want to know how far Carolyn's story is reaching. If you felt seen, if you felt heard, tap that like button, not just for the algorithm, but as a quiet little me too. And don't forget to subscribe, because every week we share real-life stories of resilience, betrayal, healing, and strength. Stories that remind you you are not alone, and your new beginning might just be one decision away. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and stay true to you.